on my inauguration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration and commence the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable. You don't have to know very much to know. I looked at Tucson, Arizona today. Did you see that? Thousands and thousands of people all over. People walk out of their house, they say, what's happened to our beautiful place? But this is in many towns and cities all over. Look at New York City. But you see New York, but you don't see other places so much. And it's happening like that, much worse, actually, much worse. This is not sustainable. No country can sustain it or financially can sustain it. Nobody could possibly sustain something like this.
More protests against the housing of migrants seeking asylum here in New York City.
And nearly a dozen people were arrested in that latest protest on Staten Island last night. This was outside a former senior center now being used for housing.
Not tonight, sucker!
Tempers flared in the Midland Beach section of Staten Island Tuesday night as protesters blocked an MTA bus carrying 20 migrants from entering the former Island Shores Senior Living Facility, which the city designated as the newest migrant shelter.
We warn them, if you try to bring illegal aliens in here, the community is going to surround it, not permit them in.
Police were in the process of finding a different route when officials tell us the migrants asked to be taken back to the Roosevelt Hotel. In the end, 10 people were arrested. 9 for disorderly conduct and 1 for allegedly assaulting an officer who was trying to arrest people.
He started saying arrest them, arrest them. They were very aggressive, grabbing people, pushing elderly people. They pushed this guy on the ground, had their knee on his back. He said he couldn't breathe.
Mayor Adams reacting to the public outrage Wednesday morning.
We have 8.3 million New Yorkers, and we cannot allow the numerical minority that show an ugly display of how we deal with the crises.
Scott Lobido is here. He's one of the organizers of the protests in Staten Island. Scott, we appreciate you being here. Look, the border crisis has been going on for a couple of years. I was down there 2 years ago reporting on it. Why now? Why these protests now in New York?
Texas is ground zero for the invasion, okay? But Staten Island is ground zero for the fix because it is infiltrating the working, residential, middle-class communities where schools of young children, young girls, pre-K to 12, and they're putting in these young adult males, okay, understand that, who are not vetted. This is the key. Forget about everybody saying that we're, anti-immigrant and all of that, which is bull, because we know we're not, okay? You can't bring in millions and millions and millions of young men of military age who have not been vetted or checked for pedophilia, rape, murder, viruses, diseases, and plant them into this working community where children right there, playgrounds right there. There's a school right up the street here. People live right here and right there. This was a senior citizen home. We could use it for our own homeless, for our senior citizens who are out and who don't have anywhere to go. This is by design. This administration, this president, and I realized it, and anybody out there who doesn't realize this, you need to get your head examined. This is being purposely done to bring and put these people in.
I'm not going to argue with you that I'm not going to argue with you that the border is purposely open. I mean, we've reported on that extensively over the past couple of years. But I'm thoughtful about how close you are to Ellis Island. Just, I don't know why it's personal to me, because my ancestors, my grandmother came through Ellis Island. And there were people who said the same thing you're saying about my grandmother and great-grandparents that you're saying about these folks. And I'm wondering if there's a reason you feel that it's different now than then.
Listen, I'm not even going to respond to that question, okay? Because what did I just explain to you? We have a system here. Everybody is welcome. I come from immigrants. Everybody in this crowd comes from immigrants. But we came here through a system, and the system is busted really bad. It's really bad. And it starts with our mayor, who welcomed them in because it's a sanctuary city. All these sanctuary city enthusiasts are not so enthusiastic anymore. Okay? This is insane. We have a system. And everybody who's crying, where's the humanity? Where's the Christianity? Where's the humanity and Christianity at the border? For the little kids that are drowning in a river, crossing a river. or the fentanyl deaths across this country. Where's the Christianity and humanity for that? I'm tired of hearing people saying that we're not humanitarians and Christian. This is bull, and it's going to stop. And Staten Island is the ground zero that is going to make it stop, because we're going to be out in the street every night, peacefully, because that's what Big Brother notices, and that's how things change. So America, get out in the street and do what we're doing. They will
Scott,
change
let me
their
just ask you,
because they're not used to seeing working people in the street.
I think you're right. You've gotten a lot of people's attention by talking about this and standing up for this. We reported on it a lot in Chicago. Ben Bradley at WGN in Chicago just found a $29 million contract from the city that offers new details on 10 cities planned for Chicago migrants. 3 meals a day, laundry, daily child care, and van transportation to the school or doctor. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to 10 cities in Chicago during the winter. We'll have more on that tomorrow. I just got about 30 seconds, and I want to give you the last word here. Eric Adams did invite all of this, and he talked about how New York is a sanctuary city and is going to welcome everybody. Do you think that it can change now, or is it too late? These folks are there already. There's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people on the border who've heard this already.
It's going to get worse before it gets better. We are waiting for the judge's decision on the court hearing about closing down the one at Villa, okay, right next to that school, because the mayor does not have the authority to call an emergency order. This is not a natural disaster. It's a man-made disaster created by him and the people in the Biden administration. The mayor is responsible for this, so he has no right to call an executive order or an emergency order to tell us what to do and put the burden on the working people of this beautiful, once beautiful city. The shame with him.
So what's the answer, Scott? You're out in the streets. I understand you're angry, and you make some great points in terms of what.
The answer is we have plenty of. First of all, close the effing border. Number one.
How can you come into a community and dump people in our community like this? This is not fair.
The city's pressing migrant crisis in the spotlight now more than ever, and Southside residents are fired up over plans to put up tents. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Scott Schneider.
And I'm Dawn Hasbrook. Tonight, a meeting on the issue was filled to capacity, and many community members are frustrated that they were not let in. Casey Crona is live in Roseland with the latest. Casey.
Dawn and Scott, community members want to make their voices heard on this subject, and tonight many weren't able to. On the table is a proposal from Mayor Brandon Johnson that would place hundreds of migrants in makeshift camps in a former Jewel parking lot. At Sheldon Heights Church of Christ, an open dialogue on the migrant crisis hosted by Alderman Ronnie Mosley was packed inside and out.
First of all, they definitely chose this venue for a reason. They chose a small venue so that they could discourage the community from being able to show up.
With fall and winter fast approaching, Mayor Brandon Johnson is looking to move migrants from police stations into what the city is calling winterized base camps.
This is essentially like a Band-Aid to a gunshot wound. You are putting a Band-Aid on a huge problem at hand.
One potential site, the former Jewel parking lot at 115th and Halstead.
I think that's a bad idea.
They want to push this out of sight and out of mind.
But it's coming with pushback, many calling on the city's leaders to focus on the needs of taxpayers.
We are the residents of this community, and we demand that they do not put these people here. They're not even following the rules in the police station. What makes us think that they're going to follow the rules here?
In front of this hotel because there were American citizen people living here paying $300 a week. And Maura Healy's office called and asked if the illegals, over 100 illegal families, could stay here. He said yes, but only if he could get $700 a week. Therefore, he put a note under all of the American citizens' room, their door in their room, a note, and told them they all had to get out. They were forced out, illegals were let in. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. This is a human rights issue. It's being violated here. This establishment here has many, many housing violations, which are now being addressed. Maura Healey has put supposedly everything on hold, but we are being told that there's still the illegals that are in here. I will never call them migrants. They are illegal. They broke the laws of our country.
So that's why I'm trying to back at the base. It doesn't matter how wealthy we are. China's wealthy. Why aren't we protesting against China? Russia's wealthy. Why aren't we protesting at them? Why aren't Haitians going to China? Why aren't Haitians going to Russia? Going to Cuba? Why? Because they won't let you in.
This isn't just a right issue. This isn't a left issue. This is an issue for all of us. We are all members of this community, and we can't afford this burden. This is ridiculous. We have homeless people here. We have an opioid crisis. The location that they want to put this in is right 2 doors down from a daycare. It's right next to the Yarmouth House. It's one of the flagship restaurants here in Yarmouth. It's across the street from residential neighborhoods. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they came from. They haven't been vetted. We don't know if they have criminal backgrounds. We don't know if they have medical issues. I just can't believe that we have to bear the tax burden of this. So.
Shelter everyone! Shelter everyone! The unhoused deserve help!
Humanitarian crisis from the day these people leave their houses. This is the end of the line for a long, terrible journey for these poor people. This is not going to help them. This is not going to increase their life. This is not any life that anybody wants to live by being in this resort in a hotel room when you can't work. It's absolutely an issue for these people here today, for the locals. But what happened with Kamala Harris going and getting to the root causes of this problem? And now it's here on our doorstep. That's why we're upset.
There are over 33% of vacant housing on Cape right now. Over 33%. That is more than the number of renters on Cape right now. Please, actually show compassion to the unhoused.
The people on the other side of the street are actively supporting policies and politicians that don't help locals or veterans or migrants. They don't help anybody. We are not here to say we don't care about our locals. We care about our locals just as much as we care about migrants that need help now. These things are not mutually exclusive. Everyone deserves housing.
Are you getting paid today since you work at the housing authority? Stop hiding behind your mask. We can't hear you. Our veterans and elderly workers.
With housing prices and so forth as high as they are, the last thing we need right now is to be giving our money and our housing situation to people who came here illegally, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to protest that.
Our son-in-law came from India, and he did it legally, and we're really, really proud of him. So we believe in legal immigration, not illegal. And the Cape's now becoming a dumping ground, and we just don't have the resources to support it. But allow them in when they're legal.
Americans first! We need senior housing! Housing for children that were born here and grew up here. They can't afford it. They're getting forced out of the low-income housing so illegals can come here. Our children have the right to live where they were born.
Veterans come first. Don't throw them on the street.
What about all of our veterans and local homeless people that were tossed out of this place so that the town could do this and put all these immigrants in here? Why should we pay for their way? No one's paying my way. And then you get people that think that we're the bad guy for wanting to protect our country. A country without borders isn't a country at all, and that's where we're heading.
We have veterans and seniors living in the
Where were you in sandwich and liberty laws that they decide to show up? Housing for all, regardless of immigration status. Compassion over hate. Compassion over hate.
We the people are fed up.
It's time to go to Ellis Island like our ancestors did, come in the country legally, then we'll be happy to invite you in. But get a job, support yourself. We are not here to do that. We worked hard our whole lives for this. Cape Cod is not full of rich people. Citizens, veterans, elderly, the young children that are growing up here that have to move off Cape because they can't afford housing. Come on, this is our country. We the people are fed up.
Thanks for joining us. As many as 4 migrants are now facing criminal charges. They're accused of threatening, even hitting Chicago police officers in the last 2 days.
WGN's Julian Cruz is live at the Harold Washington Library where he was trying to get answers from the mayor today. Did he have anything to say, Julian?
Well, Lourdes, he did not appear here at this event. According to a Chicago Public Library press release, he was scheduled to attend a community event here this afternoon. So far, at least, no sign of the mayor, who has yet to speak out on the matter either to City Hall beat reporters or in a written statement. 12th District Chicago police officers about 6:20 this morning dealing with an increasingly tense situation, taking 2 alleged offenders into custody, police sources identifying the offenders as migrants. News Affairs calling the individuals in question offenders. The first individual allegedly taking property from the district, attempting to flee, we're told, while a second migrant allegedly battered a responding officer who sustained minor injuries, police say, transported to an area hospital in good condition.
The police need to feel secure in doing their jobs. They need to feel secure in the space that they're in.
Vice Mayor and 27th Ward Alderman Walter Burnett reacting to the alarming news, though he's not familiar with the details, he says. Others at City Hall expressing concern.
I think what we're seeing is a decrease in the conditions at the police districts. We're now at nearly 2,000 individuals across the 22 districts across the city of Chicago, and we are losing control.
2 other violent or threatening incidents reported yesterday involving 12th District migrants, according to sources, raising concern about what appears to be an untenable situation. The trouble starting 9:45 yesterday morning. Juan Marquez Viena, 20 years of age, arrested and charged, according to News Affairs. Viena now facing 1 misdemeanor count of criminal trespass to property and 1 misdemeanor count of assault. About 4 hours later, more tensions. Ana Rondon, 20 years of age, arrested and charged with 1 misdemeanor count of battery against a 12th District officer. We tried several times today to reach Mayor Brandon Johnson for comment. Aldermen we talked to anxious to hear a more detailed plan to address what many, including Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, has called a long-term crisis.
Upon my inauguration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration and commence the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable. You don't have to know very much to know, but this is in many towns and cities all over. Look at New York City, but you see New York, but you don't see other places so much. And it's happening like that, much worse, actually, much worse. This is not sustainable. No country can sustain it or financially can sustain it. Nobody could possibly sustain something like this. It's a horrible situation, and it would have never happened, and it should. We had the strongest border in history. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. There's never been a third world country that had a border like this, ever. Paul Ryan, I call him Paul Rhino, but I had to fight Paul Rhino, and I had to fight Mitch McConnell, another beauty. And I ended up taking the money out of the military. I said, it's an invasion, I'm sorry. And we built 500 miles of wall, which is what it is. It's an invasion. And then was ready to do another. We had already the wall built, and we were going to add another 200. I wanted to do 5. We did 5. I was going to add another 200. We built it. It was all set. All we had to do was erect it. Very simple. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks. And then we had the election situation, and they took over. And they actually took it away and put it in faraway places. And Texas wanted to buy it and put it up, and they wouldn't sell it to them. And Arizona wanted to buy it and put it up, and they wouldn't sell it to them. But we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. That was an amazing thing. I went to the State Department. I said, Mexico has to do this. They have to do this. And they said, they'll never do it, sir. I said, yes, they will, 100%. And we had a little negotiation with Mexico. And I said to them, listen, if you don't do it, they said, no, we're not going to do it under any circumstances. And I happen to like the president of Mexico, even though he's a socialist, but you can't have everything, right? I like him. He's a good man, but he's a little different than my way of thinking. And I said, no, you're going to do it. And I met with their top representative, and he sort of laughed at me when I said, you're going to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. I said, here's the story. I have in front of me a piece of paper, and the paper says very strongly that on Monday morning at 7 o'clock, you're going to be charged 25% tariffs on all of the cars that you're sending into the United States. You know, they took 32% of our automobile business prior to us getting there, 32%. They send millions of cars in. I said, we're going to tax you 25% and 25% on every other product you sell into the United States. And he said, sir, do you mind if I make a phone call? It'll just take a minute. And he came back 5 minutes later, and he said, sir, we'd be honored to let you have 28,000. She said, I've never seen anything like that in my life. But we also got remain in Mexico. That means they stay in Mexico. They don't come in, they stay in Mexico. And Biden ended that. And that was not easy to get. And in fact, they went to a judge to have it terminated. And the judge said, you can't do this. You'll destroy our country. He let it stay. He wouldn't do it. But it terminated in 6 months. And it should have never been done. And deported illegal aliens by the tens of thousands. We had MS-13, the meanest gang. They killed 2 young girls with knives, walking to school in Long Island. They killed them with knives. They carved them up because shooting is too quick. They loved using knives. They're sick. When I first came, I said, no, we have to bring them back to their country of origin. And they said, sir, they won't accept them. Under President Obama, they wouldn't accept them. They would actually put airplanes on the runway so you couldn't land the plane loaded up with gang members and very bad people. Prisoners came into our country. And I said, how much money do we give these countries? Sir, $750 million a year. That's a lot. They said, $750 million. All right, ended immediately. And the next morning, all 3 called me up separately. Sir, there seems to be a miscommunication. What's the problem? I said, you're not taking back your people that came illegally into our country. We want you to take them back. Sir, we would be honored to take them back. We would love to have MS-13 back in our country, sir. Sir, when will the payments start? I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. And as Jim Caviezel, who's a great guy, you know who he is? The movie Sound of Freedom, he said, God's children are not for sale.
From the time they started using it for Black Lives Matter, you know, it was like out of my hands because it's kind of like it doesn't really belong to us anymore. Those of us who were in that session, in that musical session, not knowing what would even happen.
This woke ideology represents a war on truth itself.
And it got a little out of hand. That's why I had to say something about it, because people were starting to use it as a weapon, you know, and that's not what it is. It's just a state of being. It's being aware of everything around you.